Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Everybody see me? Us at the temple? Hare Krishna.
I can see you.
Yeah. We're trying something new. We're doing dual screens at the temple, so you can see devotees at the temple as well as our beloved Sri Shigora and Nitai. Yes. Welcome everyone. My name is Krishna Dulal Das, and I'm going to be your co-host for this evening. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody to our temple here at ISKCON Ottawa, 212 Somerset Street East, the residence and keeper booth of their Lordship Sri Shigora Nitai. Sri Shigora Nitai ki jai. So, welcome all of you who are joining us again. I could see many familiar faces or names here on the Zoom link. And if anybody's here joining us for the first time, extra special welcome. So we just finished having Arti, the offering of different paraphernalia to the Lord. It's a sign of love and welcoming. And next, we will have a presentation. We have a guest who is visiting us via Zoom today. And there will be a talk that will be given, maybe about 45 minutes or so, and then some discussion afterwards and questions. So please take it in, listen very attentively, and have your questions ready. And after that, we will have a little bit of kirtan. We'll continue, and we'll have some more darshan of the Lord. And that's the plan for this evening. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my co-host for this evening, Mother Yeshika. Over to you.
Hi Krishna. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Sunday Feast program. Today, we're fortunate to have the association of His Grace Bhakta Samuel Prabhu. He is from northern Quebec and moved to Montreal to study economics and philosophy in university. However, he felt unsatisfied with the studies, so he left and eventually went on a trip to India, where he met devotees for the first time. When he came back, he again encountered brahmacharis in the metro and was very impressed by their knowledge and character. And sometime after, he eventually moved into the Montreal ISKCON temple, where now he's been engaged in many varieties of Sankirtana activities over the past 3 years. So once again, I'd like to welcome His Grace Bhakta Samuel Prabhu and hand it over to him. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Is the sound okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be in the association of the Ottawa devotees. Virtual association. It's been a while since we had the great fortune to go to the temple of Sri Shigora Nitai, or to see the devotees at the great Vaishnav Sangha festival, which we're all eager, praying that it can come back. So Krishna Dulal Prabhu, he called us like this week, and he was asking if one of the brahmacharis could give a class. So I asked Prana Gauranga Prabhu, who was my senior here, but somehow he had something, so here I am. So Krishna Dulal Prabhu was suggesting that we could speak on Sankirtan, because that's kind of what we're doing here in the ashram in Montreal. Some of you might know that we've been on a program of daily Harinam for a few years, which has been very nice. Of course, it's been a bit stopped like a few months ago because the police were threatening us with thousands of dollars of fines, which was kind of a bit of a turn off for us. So we're kind of staying in the temple for now, hoping that we can go out soon. So yeah, I just wanted to speak about maybe the glories of Sankirtan, trying to meditate and myself get a deeper understanding of this activity. So I wanted to read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, if that's okay with you. So, but before doing anything, I'm just gonna say a little prayer. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here's a very special verse from, some of you might know it. It's from the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, and verse number 31. So this is a verse actually spoken by Shukadev Goswami. So I'm just going to recite the Sanskrit before. Tasmat Sankirtanam Vishnur Jagan Mangalam Hamasam Mahatam Apiko Ravya Vidyaikantika Nishkritam. So Shukadev Goswami says, of course to Maharaj Parikshit, he says, "My dear king, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is able to uproot even the reactions of the greatest sins. Therefore, the chanting of the Sankirtan movement is the most auspicious activity in the entire universe. Please try to understand this so that others will take it seriously." So, Shukadev Goswami, it's nice that he's saying this at the end. He says, please try to understand this so that also we can explain it to others. So it's one thing to perform this Harinam Sankirtan, but it should also be understood what's the nature of this activity that we're performing. Because we're all aware this is the Yuga Dharma, and that's not a surprise for everyone, so we do it. But in what consciousness do we do it? Because of course that's going to have an impact on the outcome of this activity. In the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says that one should not give up, the rules and regulations, but he should not also do them, just for the sake of doing them. So sometimes we see this. Many times I see devotees, sometimes they approach us and they say like, oh, let's say when it comes to chanting 16 rounds, I don't feel like doing it because I feel like it's mechanical. But if we hear this instruction of Rupa Goswami, it's not that because it's mechanical we have to stop doing this. No, he says, we should not give up the rules, but at the same time we should not do them mechanically. So okay, now you're seeing that it's done mechanically, so that's, psychologists, they say being aware of the problem is 50%. There's 50% on the way to having solved it. So that's good. You're noticing that you're doing this a bit maybe mindlessly. But then what do? You have to go deeper to analyze what can be done actually. So what is it? I wanted to read a quote to you actually. I read this from recently from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he talks about this different qualities of chanting, different qualities of Nam Sankirtan. So he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, for preachers to become pure is extremely necessary. Singing the holy names is found everywhere. But when we go to hear them, we feel extremely sorry to see the impurity of the singers. Either they are chanting the holy names to stop the spread of disease in the village, or they are chanting the holy names out of fear of Yamaraj. Such chanting, which comes from a heart that is polluted by thirst for liberation and material enjoyment, is the perverted reflection of the holy names. To achieve eternal auspiciousness by such chanting is impossible. So, again, here we see this point by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this point that, yes, it's good that we go out, it's good that we go out in the street to chant the holy name. But he's talking that there's there's a certain quality of consciousness that should be achieved in the performance of that very auspicious activity. So actually, there was a few months ago, there was a case that one Mataji who used to come on Harinam in Montreal with us, she wrote to me and she said, she was concerned, and she said, "Oh, I was not there yesterday on Harinam, but I saw that this girl came on Harinam, and I was a bit worried because I see that this girl, when she comes on Harinam, then she's after the guys and like these things like this." And she was saying, "I think then she should not be allowed to come." So, but when I heard this, although I appreciate that, the concern of this devotee, it brings a question, who are we really to ban someone from this activity, this Sankirtana activity? It seems that it's a very dramatic action to undertake, to say, okay, you cannot come with the devotees and perform the Yuga Dharma. So although yes, we're hearing about this, that this chanting should be done with a certain purity. What is really this purity? Actually, in the beginning, actually, of the Bhagavatam, Sutta Goswami explains that the supreme occupation for the living entities is Bhakti Yoga. But not only Bhakti Yoga, but he puts two conditions. These two conditions are Ahaituki Apratyata. So if Bhakti Yoga is performed, with no material motivation and uninterruptedly, then we can achieve the satisfaction of the self. And why do we achieve the satisfaction of the self? Because Krishna is satisfied. So for Krishna to be satisfied by our Sankirtan endeavor, it has to be performed without selfish motives. So if we take this case, we hear Bhaktivinoda Thakur says this preaching should be done purely. But what is this purity? So in that case, actually, that we were saying that this devotee was concerned, and it was like a sort of genuine concern, that this devotee, she come and she's after, she felt that it affected the purity. And when I received this message, I told it to a senior devotee here, and he told me, he said, this material world, is a prison of what? Of sex desires. So it's normal that people, they might come to Harinam. Doesn't mean that they're pure. But are we going to stop them from coming because they're not pure? No, because not only this Sankirtan activity is a process of preaching, of sharing the mercy of the Lord, but it's also for our own purification. So by, refraining someone to come on Harinam, then you're kind of blocking also their possibility to make spiritual advancements. So it's something quite significant, actually. Actually, that's something we noticed when a few years ago we started going on Harinam every day. Then we started noticing that this Harinam, it became part of our sadhana, actually. And if we're not going one day because, I don't know, something happened, then we feel like, we feel like it's just like if you have like a bad sadhana in the morning, you feel a bit weird for the rest of the day. So before bad, of course we want purity. Whether okay, this person, maybe is not following the principles, or he's not following what I'm following. Therefore, I think he's gonna affect the purity of our, Sankirtana activity. Therefore, I don't think we should come. Of course, there's extremes like which if someone comes and beat the devotees, then of course we're gonna do something. But when it's not as extreme as this, then we should see that everybody should have an opportunity to be part of this Sankirtan movement. So actually, in that regard, there is a section actually in the Bhagavad Gita which helps us to understand this, that what is this sincerity. When we're talking about ahaituki, bhakti yoga should be ahaituki, it should be without material motivation. So actually there's a verse in Prema Vivarta, Jagadananda Pandit, one associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At the end of his book, he quotes like from all sorts of scriptures. He quotes about the glories of the holy name. There's no reference. There's the Sanskrit, but there's no reference from where this verse is. But I'm gonna read it anyway. So the quote from one Shastra, he quotes, "For one who takes shelter of Lord Govinda's lotus feet, all of his sins are eradicated by chanting the Lord's holy name. He may be an abominable wretch, the biggest liar and cheat, arrogant and egoist, always given to sinful ways, but a grossly materialistic person attached to wife, children, and wealth. If one recognizes his offenses and remorselessly weeps and chants Lord Krishna's name, then very soon, due to his advancement in devotional surrender, his sins are expiated. He is elevated to become a pure Brahmana." So actually, when we're talking about purity, this purity at least which is required to perform this Sankirtan activity, in the beginning it might not manifest as purity of action, to like manifesting all the godly qualities like this, but this purity is more of a sincere desire to take shelter of the Lord and admitting that, oh my Lord, actually I'm struggling, but somehow or other I want to perform this activity for your pleasure. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it's explained this, because when we hear this Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's a very strong quote he was doing that, was saying that how we should be pure. And when we hear this, then we think, when I'm chanting, I have these material desires to go in my mind like this, so should I even continue, to do this chanting? Am I even helping others? But Krishna, he explains in the Gita to Arjuna at the end of the chapter 9. He explains, there's this famous verse, even though the most sinful person worships me with no other desire than to please me, I consider that person to be, Krishna used the word sadhu. Why? Because he's fixed in his determination. And even if one doesn't, perform abominable activities, but he has desires in his mind, which he considers abominable, if he's fixed in his determination like this, then Krishna, he accepts that he's a sadhu. And in the commentary on this verse, the acharyas, they have commented very nicely on this verse. And because they're trying to, when the acharyas, they comment, sometimes they add additional interactions between Krishna and Arjuna to help us to go deeper into this section of the Bhagavad Gita in that case. So I'm just going to read you a little interaction between Krishna and Arjuna, as written like by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which helps us to understand it. It clears our understanding of this verse. So Krishna, he says, my attachment to my devotee is my very nature. That attachment does not decrease even if the devotee commits wrong, for I make him come up to the highest standard. If someone with bad conduct, addicted to violence, thievery, or adultery, worships me and worships no one except me, and does not follow any other process like karma or gyan, and has no other desire than my desire, then this person is my devotee. But Arjuna, he's doubting. He says, so are you saying he should be considered a devotee in that portion where he's worshiping you, and as a non-devotee in that portion where he's committing all sorts of, abominable activity? And Krishna says, no, he should be considered as devotee in all parts. You should not see his bad qualities at all. He is completely convinced. He makes a splendid resolution. He says, I will go to hell for my sinful actions, which are hard to give up, but I will not give up dedicated worship to Krishna. So, so this is the definition of a sadhu by Krishna, and we sometimes that's very relevant to know these verses and these purports, because we hear often how in Bhakti we hear that. What's very dangerous for us is Vaishnava parad, but then we might think, well, this devotee, he is not a devotee because he's doing this, so I'm not committing Vaishnava parad when I'm offending him, because you can see from his habits that he's not a devotee. What Krishna here is he describes what to him is the devotee, and for him it's a question of having this firm determination to engage in devotional service no matter what, to don't take shelter of any other process. Just like when Indra he sent all the rain to Vrindavan, it's not that the inhabitants of Vrindavan they started thinking, well, maybe if we do this or we do that, or maybe we can do some austerities and we're gonna get the power to counter this and that. No, the only thing they thought was Krishna, Krishna, and because Krishna he saw this one-pointedness, then he came and he rescued them. So it's important for us that we understand that definition, how Krishna he sees devotee, and how Krishna he sees the sincerity of someone. So if we know that we have, not only we have to perform this Sankirtan activity, but we have to do it in a certain consciousness with a certain sincerity. Then we might wonder, what's the nature of that sincerity? We hear ahaituki apratyataya yatma suprasidati. So ahaituki, Prabhupada translates unmotivated. So we have to perform devotional service with no motivation, but not only no motivation, because it's not that we do devotional service and we're finish our service and we're whatever, no, we do our devotional service with a certain motivation, which is a spiritual motivation. And that motivation is that I hope that this service will be pleasing to Krishna. So ahaituki, that's what it means. It means no material motivation, but with a spiritual motivation. And it's not about me. It's not about how I feel. It's not about my bodily comfort. It's not even about my mental comfort. It's about if Krishna will be pleased. Actually, there's another verse from Prema Vivarta I was reading, that Jagadananda Pandit, he explains again this mood of the devotee, that this really, we could say this description of ahaituki. He says, if by pleasing Lord Chaitanya I have to experience pain, then let me suffer eternal anguish. So that's the devotee thinks like this. He thinks, if the Lord is happy, then who cares, about me? When Lokanath Goswami, he finally, after so long, he desired to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and finally he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was so happy. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, okay, now you go take rest, and tomorrow I have something very important to tell you. So the next day he came to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I want you to go to Vrindavan. And he was so shocked. He said, my Lord, for so long I wanted to be in your association, and now you're telling me to go away. I cannot do this. I'm gonna stay here in Navadvip and stay with you. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, anyway, was giving some arguments. I need you to do this work in Vrindavan. You go there with the Goswamis and you do this and that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Lokanath Goswami. And Lokanath Goswami, the only argument he accepted that made him change his mind, that made him although very difficultly, go to Vrindavan, was when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him, if you do this, that will please me very much. So although he had such this desire to be in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he understood that, oh, if I do this, actually, this will give pleasure to the Lord, then he did it. So this is what it means, ahaituki. It means nothing for ourselves, but only for Krishna. So anyway, it's quite an elevated platform, and we're very fortunate actually that we can, because for us, I mean, we think I have to do something, but only for the pleasure of Krishna, not for my pleasure. But it doesn't mean much to us. So that's why we're so fortunate that we have, we have these books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which we can read so many stories of devotees who could do anything for the Lord, and who are so attached to serving the Lord. Actually, if we're gonna stay in this in this mood of Jagadananda Pandit, I wanted to tell you about a little story that expresses this mood of the devotee, that his only desire is to please the Lord. And it's very nice. I was absorbed in the past few days about Jagadananda Pandit, and at the end of one chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says, because there's this song, what's it? I want to know what love is.
Yeah,
There's some devotees with me.
we do.
I want to know what love is. And at the end of this one chapter of Antyalila, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, if one hears of the loving exchanges between Jagadananda Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or if one reads Prema Vivarta, which is a book of Jagadananda Pandit, he said, he will understand what love is. That's how Prabhupada translated. That's very nice. But anyway, there's a few stories about him actually. And one story was that Jagadananda Pandit, when he was staying with Shivananda Sen, and they made like this huge pot of sandalwood oil. And Jagadananda Pandit, he had this desire that I'm gonna go to Puri and I'm gonna offer this oil to the Lord, and then he can, it can be used for when the Lord is getting massaged by his devotees like this. So then they made this pot, and he went, with great care with this big pot all the way to Jagannath Puri. And Jagadananda Pandit, he went to Govinda, which is a servant, was the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And he gave him this pot, and he said, please, when you massage the Lord, please use this oil on his body. And so Govinda, he came in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm going to read you the verses because it's just perfect how it's written. So Govinda, he came in front of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, Jagadananda Pandit has brought some scented sandalwood oil. It is his desire that your lordship apply a little of this oil on your head, so that blood pressure due to bile and air will be considerably diminished. He prepared a large jug of it in Bengal, and with great care he has brought it here. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, because of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi. So he said, a sannyasi has no use for oil, especially perfumed oil such as this. Take it out immediately. Deliver this oil to the temple of Jagannath, where it may be burned in the lamps. In this way, Jagadananda's labor in manufacturing the oil will be perfectly successful. So, of course, the Lord is in the mood of the devotee. And not only the devotee is in the mood of sannyasi, devotee of the Lord. So he cannot act contrary to sannyas etiquette, so he should not live very opulently. So that's why he says, bring this oil to the temple of Jagannath, because he is the Lord. He deserves everything, all worship. I'm not the Lord. So when Govinda, he came back and he told this to Jagadananda Pandit, he told what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied. It said that Jagadananda Pandit remained silent, not even saying a word. Then after 10 days, Govinda again told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, it is the desire of Jagadananda Pandit that your lordship accept the oil. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he heard this, he was somewhat angry and he said, why not keep a masseur to massage me? Have I taken sannyas for such happiness? Accepting this oil would bring my ruination, and all of you would laugh. If someone passing on the road smelled this oil on my head, he would think of me as a Dari sannyasi, a tantric sannyasi who keeps women. So hearing these words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Govinda remained silent. And then the next morning, Jagadananda went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he explained to Jagadananda Pandit, because he could see how he was expressing his love to him, by wanting him to use this oil. He said, my dear Pandit, you have brought me some oil from Bengal, but since I am in the renounced order, I cannot accept it. Deliver the oil to the temple of Jagannath so that it may be burned in the lamps. Thus your labor in preparing the oil will be fruitful. So Jagadananda Pandit, he had a very special relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he kind of got angry and he said, who tells you all these false stories? I never brought any oil from Bengal. And then he took the big jar of oil and he threw it on the ground and broke the pot, and the oil went everywhere like this. And then after breaking the pot, he went to his home, locked the door, and went to bed. And he didn't move from his bed for 3 days. So this was how Jagadananda Pandit, he was expressing his love for the Lord. He just wanted to serve the Lord in any way, but he could not, because the Lord, he had taken sannyas. And earlier I was reading this quote in his own book, Jagadananda Pandit. He writes, we were reading how he says, if by pleasing Lord Chaitanya I have to experience pain, then let me suffer eternal anguish. But then after he says, and if my Lord renounces pleasure and joy, accepting an austere lifestyle, then I shall drown in an ocean of grief. So he is really expressing his feeling that we can sense also while reading these pastimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The devotees, it's described when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas. There's a painting I saw on Facebook when it was the anniversary of that day. And you see all the devotees, they're crying like anything. And it's such a sad day for them. Our Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's taking sannyas. So it means, he's going to live so austerely. And they cannot bear just to think that the Lord actually will live such an austere lifestyle, because the devotees, they want to see the Lord happy. And so for them, it was very difficult. And Jagannatha Pandit, uh, it was very difficult for him. Even there was a case when, in another chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he had back pain. He was lying on dry banana leaves and it was hurting his back. So Jagannatha Pandit, he noticed this and he started making a bed, a more comfortable bed. And he brought it to Svarup Damodar and he said, you ask the Lord to lie on this, and it's going to help him, and like this. So again, of course, Jagannath, at this time, Svarup Damodar Goswami, he brought the more comfortable bed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said, oh, where is it? He said, yes. When he brought the bed, actually, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked, who made this? And it said that, actually, it was Svarup Damodar, he brought it to Govinda. Govinda, he brought the bed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, who made this? And Govinda, he said, it's Jagannatha Pandit. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he heard that Jagannatha Pandit made the verse, it says he was somewhat fearful because he knew the nature of the love of Jagannatha Pandit, and he knew that he would not give up, that he would take it very seriously. I made this for the Lord, so the Lord has somehow to use this for this pleasure. So the Lord, when he heard this, he said, "Oh no!" So then, Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, after asking Govinda to put aside the bed and pillow, the Lord lay down on the dry plantain bark. So Svarup Damodar said to the Lord, he said, "My Lord, I cannot contradict your supreme will, but if you do not accept the bedding, Jagannatha Pandit will feel great unhappiness." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "You might as well bring a bedstead here for me to lie on. Jagannatha wants me to enjoy material happiness. I am in the renounced order, and therefore I must lie on the floor. For me to use a bedstead, kilt, or pillow would be very shameful." So it said that when Svarup Damodar, he came back to Jagannatha Pandit and he said this, that the Lord, he won't use your bed, then Jagannatha Pandit felt very unhappy. So Svarup Damodar Goswami, he thought of something. He said, I have to do something about this. So he took a big quantity of dry banana leaves and he tore all the leaves into very fine fibers with his nail, and then he filled two outer garments of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with these fiber to make it more thick, like this, a bit more comfortable. And this way, Svarup Damodar, he made a bedding and a pillow. And after so much endeavor by the devotees, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he finished. He accepted that offering from them. But said everybody was happy to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lie on this bed. But it said that, but Jagadananda was inwardly angry, and externally he appeared very unhappy. And then there's this whole story how he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can I just go to Vrindavan? Because he's so angry that he just wants to leave Jagannath Puri. But anyway, but the point is that we're reading this to understand that the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in their own ways, in their own particular relationship with him, what's most dear to them is for the Lord to be happy. And it might, in the pastimes of the Lord like this, it might bring, according to the circumstances, like Gadadhar Pandit, when he was told by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to stay in Jagannath Puri and worship Tota Gopinath. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he left Puri and he said, what's the use of staying here and worshiping this deity? Better, million times better is to, to just see your lotus feet. He was saying this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was saying, no, it's very important. You took this vow. You know, you have to respect this vow like this. So the devotees, they have also all the time uh, this tension between they want to please the Lord, but at the same time, sometimes it seems that the will of the Lord is that they cannot serve Him like they would want to. But ultimately, there is a limit that they cannot go against His will. Of course, some will stretch that limit, like Jagannatha Pandit is really like stretching that limit. But some will have more of some submissive mood. But the point is that the devotees, the only thing they want is to see the Lord happy. So one could say, you know, well, the Lord is self-satisfied. So it's not. One Christian was telling me this in the street some time ago. He was saying, you know, it's not, you know, that what you're doing it makes the Lord happy, or you know, it's the Lord is naturally, you know, it's not that He's suffering if you're not doing it. And in one sense, you know, that's true, but in another sense, that's not true. We hear in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita that, you know, although we can say that the Lord is self-satisfied, and even though we're rotting in this material world, you know, He's not affected. It doesn't affect the quality of His bliss. But when Gopakumari came back to the spiritual world, uh, it's described that Krishna actually he ran towards him, and when he met him, he embraced him, and Krishna fainted just by seeing this his devotee. And then after, you know, when he came back, it was, how, where have you been? You know, where have you been for all this time? I was missing you like this. So Krishna, although he is self-satisfied, you know, in more of his Vishnu aspect, at the same time he is anchoring for this love that the devotees they offer him. So that's why, because we started speaking about this Sankirtana activity. And what is it, this Sankirtana activity? This Sankirtana activity is to bring the ultimate pleasure to the Lord by bringing back His devotees who forgot that they were His devotees to Him. By making them realize, hey, wake up, actually, you know, you're doing all these things, but no, actually you have an eternal relationship with Krishna, and if you don't engage in that relationship, then you won't be happy. But actually, we say we go on Sankirtan out of compassion for the conditioned souls, but maybe this, but also because we want to please Krishna by bringing these conditioned souls to Him. Of course, they have free will, but the devotee thinks, you know, Krishna will be so happy if this conditioned soul is to a certain degree reawakened to his eternal identity and re-engages in his eternal loving relationship with the Lord. Then the Lord will be, that's the best thing I can do for the Lord. Like if you hear, like, you know, someone like a married couple and then they get separated, I don't know, the wife leaves. If someone, he goes to the wife of that person, you know, the friend of the guy, he goes to the wife of that person and he says, and somehow or other he convinces this wife to come back, you know, and now finally, you know, they talk and now they're okay, then this person will be the greatest well-wisher of this man. He's gonna think, this is my best friend, you know, because my wife, she left and I thought it was over like this, but somehow or other he went there and he convinced her, no, what are you doing? You have to go back with him. So that's what we're doing when we're on Sankirtan. We go and we tell people this, because Krishna, all these souls, they're all very dear to him, and we say, please understand your constitutional position and go back to this constitutional position. And when we do this, then Krishna, he feels like we're his well-wisher in a sense. It's not that we should think like this, you know, we chant our rounds and we think, oh, I'm the well-wisher of Krishna. Without me, he would not be doing much. But in one sense, when we're going on Sankirtan, it's to be the well-wisher of Krishna in the sense that we're giving him pleasure by bringing his devotees back to him. And Krishna, there's a limit. He tries himself, he comes, you know, and he's in our heart, and he might make direct endeavor to get us, but at the same time he respects our free will. And what Prabhupada, he writes in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita, that because there's a verse in the third canto that says, although people, they're absorbed in materialistic when people are absorbed in materialistic activities, we should not we should not disturb them too much, just let them do what they're doing. But in that purport, Prabhupada, he says that's true. Krishna is respecting the free will of every living entity, not to be engaged in a loving relationship with him. But he said the devotees, they're more kind than Krishna, because the devotees, it's okay, yes, this person, he has free will, but to what degree does he have free will? It's like animals. We understand that animals, they're just getting the reactions of their past fruitive activities. So there's not much free will going on there. That's why we say animals, they don't create karma. But many humans, they're like animals. So we can say, oh yeah, they have free will. What can I do? But maybe they don't have much free will. And by going on Sankirtan, we give them free will, in the sense that just by hearing the chanting, just by taking a book and taking prasadam, they get sukriti, which is really the only free will that we can give to people, is to give them sukriti. So yeah, although we were reading at first about the importance of that, the purity of the creature, but that might not be manifest like completely, and all the qualities of that person, but that will be manifest in what really is his intention when he's performing this Sankirtana activity, and if he does it ultimately to please Krishna. So in that sense, then that's the proper consciousness to perform this activity. So it's been, so I want to respect the time. So now it's been 45 minutes. So maybe we can hear from the devotees. That would be very nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much. Just hold on a second. Hare Krishna. Jai. So yes, thank you. So devotees, if there are some questions right now, perhaps I would ask if you could raise your hand in the chat, and we'll go in order. And if you don't know how to raise the hand, is at the bottom middle section of the Zoom. There's a button called Reactions. So under Reactions, you could press that button and then click the hand icon if you have any questions or comments. We have one question from Mother N, and then followed by Mandala Ram Prabhu. So go ahead, Mother N.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Bhakta Samuel, for your very interesting and enlivening presentation. Actually, I don't have, well, I have a question, and I have also a comment. So I will start with the comment. So I really appreciated your presentation, as it was a very good reminder about how this process of chanting is for everyone. And no matter how far we are on the path of Krishna consciousness, and that Krishna is not looking at necessarily how perfect we are, but how perfect our love and determinations are. And so also it reminded me that, the purity is, I don't know how much it is up to us, but definitely the determination, the sincerity, and that we put in our chanting, in our endeavors, this is up to us, and this is something we can control. And so for me, it gave me hope that no matter where I am on the path of Krishna consciousness, not like all my efforts are not necessarily wasted. And I should continue actually, and put just more sincerity, more determination. And I guess I will receive eventually help from Krishna. So anyway, thank you for that. And And my question, I guess I should know by now the answer, but I'm forgetting the meaning of Sukriti. You mentioned that towards the end of your lecture. Could you please remind me, what does that mean?
Hi Krishna. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your nice comment. Yeah, Sukriti, I mean, there's when we speak, there's material piety and we can do materially good actions, materially bad actions, which will create good karma and bad karma. But Sukriti is actions on the spiritual platform. So the spiritual piety that we might get, people, if they hear the Maha Mantra, whether they want it or not, they're being engaged in Shravanam. So they're hearing the holy name of Krishna. So they're engaging in devotional service. And because of that, they get Sukriti, they get this spiritual pious points, pious credits. Yeah, I don't know if it helps.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Wonderful, thank you. So we'll move over to Mandala Ram Prabhu. Did you have a question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just like how you were connecting all to Mahaprabhu in the past times and his associates, and it's a great segue. And we're coming up to Gaur Purnima soon enough, and we're in the midst of the Be a Gardener campaign, where the devotees are, trying to at least read one verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita and dive into the actual pastimes of Mahaprabhu, because most of us have dove into the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, but the majority of devotees, myself included, have not even touched the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this was just very inspirational for me to hear about some of the pastimes and dive deeper into Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And maybe you could just I don't know, give some words of wisdom to inspire us all to maybe take advantage of Srila Prabhupada's endeavor to bring us the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and maybe some impact that it's had in your life, where you can inspire other devotees to maybe get a set and get into the flow of devotional service, and follow in the footsteps of Mahaprabhu as he did.
Hi Krishna. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu, for your nice comment. It's true. Sometimes we don't. I mean, Prabhupada's program was Bhagavatam class in the morning and a Gita class in the evening. But Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, was very dear to him. In New York, in the beginning, for a long time he was reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, at that time it wasn't translated; it was in Bengali. And we can hear in the Prabhupada Lilamrita how for the devotees that was such an experience to hear about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like this. So there's a verse actually of Narottam Das Thakur in his Prem Bhakti Chandrika. It's Gorangera Madhura Lila Jar Karne Praveshila Ridoya Nirmala Belotar. He says, just by hearing the pastimes of the sweet pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then automatically the heart starts to get purified. So just by hearing these pastimes, of course, Krishna Lila, Krishna book is there, and many devotees are getting absorbed in Krishna book, and that's very nice. But Krishna Lila is a bit more inaccessible to us than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. They're more accessible because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's nature is that he is so merciful. So his pastimes are also very merciful and very purifying just to hear. And yeah, it's just amazing because we see the examples of devotees. So many devotees, we see the example of devotees just in the actions of the Lord himself, who is there and is acting as a devotee. So we really get to know what is a devotee. I remember when I was reading, the first book I ever read was a comic book actually on the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I was kind of struck because I saw when there was the description, he arrives in the Jagannath Puri temple and he just loses consciousness in front of the Lord like this. out of love. And I was thinking, whoa, I never heard this like in any like religious scripture in the world. You're so much like in ecstatic love that you lose consciousness like this. You know, we see the Buddhists, they maybe they seem quite peaceful, but it's not that they lose consciousness and spiritual ecstasy. so just hearing these pastimes is very very encouraging to us, and very very purifying and very blissful. When I went to Florida last year, there was this very nice sannyasi there, Bhakti Prem Swami Maharaj, and every evening after Gora Arati, we would sit together, and he would put the verses from the CC on the board, and each of us, we would read one verse like turn by turn, the Bengali and then the English. And it was so nice. Like after Goharati, after dancing and chanting in front of Goranitai, we would just hear these wonderful pastimes. It was some very nice moments. So hopefully Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to what was it? It was what's his name? The Keshavananda Prabhu. When he came here, disciple of Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, he said that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he used to make his devotees read. The first book he wanted them to read was Chaitanya Bhagavat, of course by Vrindavan Das Thakur, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's so anyway, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, next we're going to go over to Surendra Prabhu, followed by Matthew Prabhu. Go ahead, Surendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Samuel Prabhu. It was very nice, and I mean, the verse you chose is very simple, and but it has a clear message. And you mentioned a word purity, and I immediately was listening one lecture recently. There's a purity is a force, and then Prabhuji was explaining that we have to understand what do they mean by purity is force. And he says that if somebody gives you a bullet in your hand and you throw a bullet to someone else, nothing is going to happen. Rather, he may even collect the bullet and sell it in the market. But if the same bullet is put in a gun and then there's a trigger and then you shoot the bullet at this heart, the heart will be gone and the person will be gone, basically, because now there is a force. So earlier there was no force, even though the things were pure. So similarly here is the purity comes basically, I mean, the purity has to be there, which is coming by the association and the instructions by the spiritual master. Pure Vaishnava. So this was a very important point, that the purity. And another point which you mentioned was very, very important, which happens quite a lot of times, is we want to serve based on our desire. And that is what the pastime I was reading of this Jagadanand Pandit is, that he wanted to serve Lord as per his desire, which is a rajasic seva or a mode of passion. And sometimes if there is a leniency, it can go into mode of ignorance also. And as I thought maybe I should mention here is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here was a Lord, but at the same time he was kind of teaching also. So he was a teacher or a spiritual master as well in his all the dealings. And that is what he's telling us, is that to make me happy is basically we have to make spiritual master happy. Because if we do service to Lord, well, at least in my case, I will never receive a response from the Lord probably. But as a person, if we do things to a spiritual master, then definitely there will be some feedback or something that how you are doing. So we have to understand that to make a spiritual master happy, first we have to understand what pleases him, and so that we don't apply our own mode of passion or passionate style to serve. This is what I got from this particular Leela. It's just that it's coincidence that I was reading this particular piece around a week to 2 weeks ago, and now you mentioned, so all those things were mentioned, so I thought I would share. And one last point about Mother Anne is the Sukriti. I just want to mention that Sukriti is possible even for the animals as well. That's the only beauty of Sukriti. So it's universal, and that's why they said that Bhakti is universal and anybody can perform. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribol Prabhu, do we have time for 2 more questions? Are we able to take Samuel Prabhu?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes. Okay. So we'll ask for Matsi Prabhu and then followed by Guru Prasad Prabhu. Go ahead, Matsi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So just one quick question was the reference you used for Srimad Bhagavata, and just that verse today, just because I wanted to note it, but I didn't grab it.
Oh yeah, Prabhu, just one second. It's from the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, verse 31.
31. Okay. And question number 2, just a small question on, or just if you can describe a bit the prasadam distribution you're doing in Montreal, because we've heard about it, but maybe we haven't heard it, or I haven't heard it firsthand. So if you can maybe describe what the devotees are doing and how that's going, and if that's been your solution to COVID, or if it's a new inspiration.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah, well, you know, a few months ago, it's because we were going on Harinam, and then a few times the police, they came to us and they kind of told us if they get us again, maybe we're gonna have thousands of dollars of fine. So we said, okay, we're gonna stay in the temple. But then we wanted to stay active also, so we thought about this. Okay, it's a bit hard right now for book distribution. It's a bit hard for Harinam. So, but then we called the government and we say, is it allowed? Is it considered essential service to give food? And they said, oh yeah, sure. Thank you. I mean, the government, for them, cannot appreciate so much the distribution of the holy name, but distributing food for the poor, you know, that's it. So yeah, we've been doing this since that time, and it's very nice interactions. And recently we were able to start doing some books again also, and we're hopefully we can go on Harinam soon when the restrictions start to slacken.
Right. Thank you very much, Prabhu. And over to you, Guru Prasad Prabhu. Guru Prasad Prabhu, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Samuel Prabhu, thank you for a very interesting and very humorous account of Mahaprabhu's time. First, let me also tell, you know, the Prabhupada has given us 3. To be the first.
There's a signal issue, Prabhu.
Guru Prasad Prabhu, we can't quite hear you.
To pick up that really still. How about now?
Now it's okay. But now it's not okay. Guru Prasad Prabhu, could you write down your question in the chat or a comment?
I do that.
Thank you. So when Guru Prasad Prabhu will write it down, and we'll hope to see it. And yes, in the meantime, I wanted to also express my appreciation for your wonderful presentation. And I really liked the description that you gave of a sadhu. This was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's. Is this who you were quoting?
Yeah, Prabhu, it's in his commentary on the verse 930 of Bhagavad Gita. And this verse and verse 931, both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Bhadra Vidyabhushan, they comment very nicely on this, on what it means, like this purity of intention. And it's very nice to read these purports, actually.
I find it's inspiring, because sometimes we get caught up in some of these semantics, these details, and they actually become an obstacle, you know, in our hearts and our activities, and stop us from wanting to do Sankirtan or encouraging others to do Sankirtan, because we get stuck sometimes with the rigid rules that are there. And on the point that you mentioned with regards to the devotee's desire is to please Krishna, and I guess the devotee is satisfied when Krishna is pleased. And but how do we know that Krishna is pleased? We may be performing our activities or certain seva, and it might become quite depressing sometimes, because we may think we're performing it, but perhaps we're not getting a reciprocation, right, or a confirmation within our heart that Krishna is pleased. And could you comment on that perhaps, and speak to that question a little?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Well, it's a very practical point you're raising, and we might wonder this, because of course we were reading like the verse like Aitukya pratyata yayatma suprasidati, that when devotional service is performed without material motivation and without cessation, then we're going to feel this satisfaction. But then maybe we're not able to gauge so much. Maybe we feel we feel the Lord is satisfied, but maybe we're thinking the Lord is satisfied to justify whatever we want to do. But of course, that's why Prabhupada was saying, often quoting from Narottam Das Thakur, that we have a check and balance process, which is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So if we think, oh, super soul, Krishna in my heart is telling me to do this. But if that thing you're thinking Krishna is telling you to do is going against Shastra and going against the instruction of Guru and going against the instruction of Krishna in the Gita and the scriptures, then it might be a dangerous path to take. Of course, we hear of highly advanced devotees on high platform of devotional service. They might act in ways that seem that it doesn't go with like the conventional instructions we read in the scriptures like this. But I know for us to consider that they haven't went through the stage of anartha nivritti yet, then we should stick to these three Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and not trust so much our inner feelings. I saw there was a caption of a class online by Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, and the title was "Don't Trust Your Inner Voice." Yeah, don't listen to your inner voice. So that's a good point you're making. But we have these three Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So I'm just going to read Guru Prasad Prabhu's comment there. He said, Srila Prabhupada gave us three means of spreading the mercy of Mahaprabhu: books, Harinam, and Krishna Prasadam. When the first two could not be done due to the restrictions, Montreal devotees used the third method, which is very wise. Certainly, the Lord gave them this idea because it is His service. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Prasad Prabhu.
Jai. All right, Samuel Prabhu, thank you so much for sharing your inspiration with us and words of Mahaprabhu. And it is so nice to hear from the devotees from Montreal. Last week we had Gokulananda Prabhu that was speaking, and it was now we have the proteges, the next generation who's there, and we could see that it's very inspiring. We were trying to get some Sankirtan going here, and devotees are actively also going and being creative, finding innovative ways of spreading Krishna consciousness. So we hope to get your association again sometime soon. And thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, all the devotees in Ottawa. And again, I'm looking very forward to have your association, to go there, and again I'm praying that we can have this Vaishnav Sangha.
Yes.
We're all doing this. So thank you so much. I was so happy to have your association, and please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right, and thank you, devotees, for your wonderful questions and comments. Very, very wonderful. We're going to continue now with the next part of our program, which will be some kirtan and darshan of Shishigor Nitai. If you are able to stay with us for some kirtan for the next few minutes, wonderful. If not, then again, same time, same place, again next Sunday. So we hope to see you again soon. Shishigor Nitai ki jai.
Just a minute, dear devotees. We're getting setting up.
This is yours.
Hare Krishna. So we're just going to be closing the curtains momentarily. So you have the opportunity to have the last minute darshan with Shri Gaur Nitai. Gaur Nitai ki jai.